Good morning, everyone. Today we're checking out a brand new video from TrueGreen7 about how he made the ugliest and prettiest Pokemon to ever exist. Let's hop in and check it out. Hey, Mike, could you go ahead and get the beauty scale out? Yeah, we're gonna need it for this one.
Hey guys, Ron here, and ever since Barbaracle dropped on the scene more than 10 years ago, I've been obsessed with the question of what makes a Pokemon ugly. Barbaracle split the fandom. I mean, we all agreed that it was ugly, but fans like me understood that it was supposed to be off-putting, considering it's a barnacle, and liked it for its unique appearance, great concept, and scary execution. It felt like a barbarian barnacle. I wanted to see if this opinion still persisted. Do people hate ugly Pokemon? What Pokemon are considered ugly? And which Pokemon are agreed to be ugly but still beloved despite their appearance? So a few months ago, I made a poll for you guys to fill out with all of these questions, as well as a few more questions to determine the opposite. What are considered the prettiest Pokemon, and why are they so pretty? I collected all of this data and made what I'd consider the ugliest and prettiest Pokemon I've ever designed. If you want to participate in any of the future polls I make for my viewers, please follow me on Twitter and subscribe here on YouTube, because the community tab is where all these polls are at. And leave a like if you want to see similar videos in the future. Now let's begin with that sweet, sweet data. But before revealing which Pokemon my viewers voted as the ugliest, in a classic TrueGreen7 top 10 fashion, I want to first show you guys what my viewers answered when asked what makes a Pokemon ugly. Human features was the most common answer. Now, all Pokemon are anthropomorphic in some way, and many humanoid Pokemon are beloved, so they're not talking about bipedal or intelligent Pokemon. What they hate is any Pokemon with a combination of noticeable lips and human hairstyle. Another very common answer was that the Pokemon looks uncomfortable. If the colors were clashing, it was obviously not a hit design. If the Pokemon had disproportionate body parts, it would look uncanny, and if the Pokemon looked unintelligent, it would be considered dumb. Fans hate random protrusions, a scary smile was next, and if a Pokemon was designed to look feminine or masculine but didn't really pull it off, it would be considered creepy by fans. That's kind of the most common theme, actually. Creepiness. People appreciate and even respect scary monsters, but creepy humanoid ones aren't really what fans want to see. So what are the—
I mean, think about it in a horror movie sense. You want to be chased by something that could actually make you scream because you're scared of it, or scream because you're... no, not even scream. You just be creeped out and get the shivers.
The top 10 ugliest Pokemon, according to you guys? Number 10 is Mr. Mime. People find it creepy, and with it being a nose and ears away from being human, it triggers the uncanny valley to some people. Anything that is close to human yet isn't is primally upsetting. It's funny considering its colors aren't disgusting, and it's rather clean looking. It's not a dirty garbage Pokemon, just weird and awkward, according to fans. But number 9 is quite the opposite. Garbodor. Even if you're one of the growing numbers of fans who are beginning to appreciate its design and concept, it's hard to deny that living garbage is gonna be ugly. It's more disgusting compared to anything in the top 3, but it's not humanoid in any way, and that kind of helps it. Number 8 is similar though. Diggersby is thought to be dirty. A mud-covered Pokemon will easily make the list. This Pokemon has failed male attributes, like a 5 o'clock shadow made of dirt. That human element that animals don't even remotely have is considered ugly. I would not want to see a rabbit with a beard. Unless it was a wizard. That's how you do it. Number 7 is Gunkelder. Just like Diggersby, this Pokemon is very much modeled after construction workers. Not the prettiest bunch. Its protruding flesh and veins are probably the number 1 factor. It's an old guy though. I can respect the muscles, but that isn't what young players consider attractive. Number 6 is Ambipom. One of my least favorite Pokemon. That snub nose, creepy smile, and ugly haircut are not appealing to many fans.
No, I like
this. Ambipom is cuter, and Ambipom is far from one of the coolest Pokemon. It's simply awkward. Number 5, Enamorus. One of the most unpopular Pokemon of all time. And of course, like many unpopular Pokemon, it's because of their appearance. This is the epitome of what fans hate in a Pokemon design. Plump lips and the hairdo of a person. I mean, from here on out, most of the list are Pokemon who are extremely feminine, but not traditionally attractive. Now, don't shoot the messenger, but I think I know the societal reasons for this. We kind of expect men to be subpar in their appearance. If you see an unattractive man, or to an extent an ugly monster, it's not that surprising, and therefore you don't make such a fuss. But if a designer makes it their mission to give a Pokemon what are considered pretty and feminine traits, it'll signal to the viewer that this Pokemon is supposed to look conventionally attractive. So when it's not, it's kind of considered a failure. Because of course, most of us don't even want to be attracted to a Pokemon. So if Game Freak gives the Pokemon a feature of an attractive woman, in the minds of Pokemon fans, they better find it attractive or else. Keep in mind, most of my audience is male. So I assume that also means that most Pokemon fans just so happen to be male. And that kind of factors into this. Make whatever implications you want. That's why number 4 is Aromatisse. I think it's a Pokemon with an amazing concept. But
I'm going to call it Jinx's number 1.
I, like many fans, find it tacky. It doesn't feel like it's confidently exuding the charm that the design is trying to illustrate. It's like seeing a little girl at a beauty pageant. Like, yeah, She's trying, but she's clearly uncomfortable, and nobody wants to see this. Putting makeup
Highly
and a dress on
uncomfortable.
a stout bird doesn't make it look beautiful. It's incongruent. The complete opposite is number 3, Crabominable. It's meant to be ugly.
Oh, yeah,
An
no.
abominable
Yeah.
snowman yeti crab. Its brute strength contrasts with its unintelligent, goofy, yokel face. It's a great concept, but doesn't hide the fact that it's literally ugly.
Great concept, terrible design in the
Number
story.
2, Jinx.
Ah,
Kind of a
there
perfect
it is.
example of what we already discussed. Jinx is an animal in the Pokemon world, and fans don't want to see animals with human clothes, lips, and hair. If you were wondering where certain Pokemon were, here are the honorable mentions. Barbaracle was 1 vote away from being on the list. By now, most fans think of it as scary instead of ugly. Feebas, Skirtor, and Probopass have the same amount of votes as Barbaracle, but by now, people
Ooh.
find them funny or justified. Drowsy was weirdly next. I guess a tapir that looks like it was dunked in mud isn't going to be considered pretty. Quilladin, Magmortar, Muck, and Scovillain were close too, but their ugliness
Yeah.
was either understood, understated, or justified. Number 1 is Bruxish. It received nearly
yeah.
3 times more votes than Jinx. Should I even explain? It's not a bad Pokemon. Everything about it was intentionally off-putting. I don't think Game Freak tried to make an attractive fish. Like Garbodor, it's supposed to be ugly, and they succeeded. So that means it's time to try my best to make an ugly Pokemon. It's something I rarely do. Recently I made Pescarouge, which was intentionally unsettling, but I
Oh,
wouldn't say
yes,
it was
I
as
remember.
ugly as a Pokemon can get. In fact, of my modern designs, I think Freshendo was the ugliest, but since it looks scary and powerful, many viewers actually loved it, and that was the intention. In fact, many ugly Pokemon avoid being considered so by just pulling it off. When I asked my viewers which Pokemon they consider ugly but actually really like, the answers were pretty interesting. Seismitoad, Probopass, and Exploud were at the bottom of the top contenders. Venusaur is loved for being a gentle giant starter with admittedly
Love it,
pretty flora.
yeah.
Stunfisk is funnier than it is ugly. Buck is given the benefit of the doubt. Dracovish is incredibly popular for its competitive and anime appearances.
Oh,
Its
yeah?
concept is also fairly understood by fans. Barbaracle actually made it to the list, and Feebas followed him too. But the most popular ugly Pokemon is kind of hard to answer when it comes to the most votes. Crabominable, Bruxish, and Garbodor were clearly the winners, but they have their fair share
Wow.
of haters, considering the previous list. So what is the least hated ugly Pokemon? It's Grimmsnarl. It's a popular Pokemon. Nobody expects a goblin to be attractive, and yet with its hair muscles, it's kind of respected, and somebody considers it to be a hunk. It's
Now, here's the thing. What the hell does that thing look like underneath all that hair?
seen as intimidating and powerful, and that's the number 1 way to make an ugly Pokemon likable. But the most underrated reason it's a beloved ugly Pokemon is that its pre-evolved forms are ugly and goofy as well. You have the time to get
Yeah.
used to it, and very much expect it to remain ugly, unlike Crabominable and Jinx. So how am I going to make an ugly Pokemon? I'm going to take inspiration from an extremely ugly animal and character. The male hammerhead fruit bat has these resonating
Oh.
chambers on its face that amplify their vocalizations, along with way bigger vocal cords. The call that they make during their mating ritual is very important. I mean,
It looks like someone took the head of a dog and shoved it onto the bat. Like, jeez.
bats are very famous for their vocalizations, so why not combine it with another ugly singer, the Phantom of the Opera, the titular character who is heavily disfigured but incredibly talented and intelligent. That's how I'm going to make this Pokemon somewhat likable, along with its lore. It'll have
Yeah,
a connection
okay.
to the pretty Pokemon that we're going to make right after this one. I'm basically crossing the face of a
I like
hammerhead
it.
fruit bat and a creepy Victorian man. Hopefully the Victorian men watching don't get offended. If the disproportionate head doesn't make it look ugly, then those sunken eyes and human hairdo will. Keep in mind, I'm not just gonna make a Pokemon ugly by making a terrible piece of art. It's still gonna be a 100% viable Pokemon design. It'll work in the franchise, and that's kinda tough to do. Fur that looks like human clothes is always a thing fans have problems with, and I originally added fangs, but I realized this Pokemon is a vegetarian. It's kind of freeing to not worry about a Pokemon looking bad, when that's kind of the point. But of course, I'm still infusing him with some kind of likable aspect for fans to grow attached to. That's the challenge.
Well, of course, you did base it off the fruit bat, so of course it would be a
Every
vegetarian.
Pokemon is someone's favorite, and considering this Pokemon is very unique compared to my other designs, I'm sure a few of you will find it interesting for that reason. Here is Baratorn, the opera Pokemon, from Baritone and Torn, a ghost fairy
bad,
type
actually.
Pokemon with the new ability Phantom Voice. All sound-based moves this Pokemon uses become ghost type. This rare Pokemon has a powerful voice that can wake the dead. Its appearance is reviled, so it stays away from humans and Pokemon. It lives in sea caves and abandoned buildings. It is very gentle and kind. It will only battle if it must. Its shiny is a combination of Halloween colors and the very unpleasant gradient that became a meme online. I think Baratorn is one
I
of
don't
my
get it.
most cohesive Pokemon, kind of, if you think about it. In fact, its lore is kind of incomplete by itself, because the counterpart to this Pokemon is the beautiful mythical Pokemon I'm going to make. Who's that Pokemon?
Damn it, why can't I remember?
It's Putridome.
Maybe that's why I don't remember.
But before we make that Pokemon, I asked you guys what you think is the prettiest Pokemon. I used that word instead of beautiful because many of you guys would simply vote for the Pokemon you think has the best design. Or you'd tell me a Pokemon that you'd consider handsome. But masculine beauty is very diverse in the Pokemon world. Arcanine, Machamp, and Staraptor are rather masculine and striking, but they're nothing alike, while the prettiest Pokemon are kind of similar to each other, and would contrast better with the ugly Pokemon I designed, as opposed to a handsome Pokemon. First, I asked you guys what you think makes a Pokemon pretty, and the answer was fairly simple. Feminine, sleek, slender, simple, and elegant. Clean and pastel colors were very important too. Marketable was also very important. I keep on saying the point is that it has to look like it would be popular. So, do these represent the top 10 prettiest Pokemon? Number 10 was Diancie. I mean, jewels and princesses are very much considered beautiful. Number 9 is Mega Absol. Absol is already striking, but adding more luxurious fur akin to a guardian angel's wings makes it understandably prettier. Number 8,
angel.
Florges. I mean, flowers and fairies are very much gorgeous sights. Number 7, Lopunny. Lopunny is debatably the most femininely designed Pokemon. Combined with its fashionable aesthetic and the fact that it's a bunny, many will end up thinking that it's very cute. Number 6 is Primarina. Mermaid sea lion with pearls, beautiful eyes, flowing hair, and a marvelous voice. Nothing surprising.
Is kind of pretty.
Number 5, Lilligant. An elegant flower woman is always a safe bet for prettiest Pokemon. Beautiful.
Like a short stack.
Number 4, Sylveon. Pretty much every evolution is well designed and beautiful in their own way, but I would definitely say it has the prettiest color scheme, appealing personality, and alluring eyes. Number 3, Gardevoir. The face of femininity in the Pokemon franchise. It's what comes to mind to many people. Its Mega also counts in the spot. But number 2 is Alolan Ninetales. A surprising yet understandable heavy hitter. It is my personal favorite regional form, and probably the Pokemon that makes the most sense on this list. It's perhaps the only one that is objectively pretty, and I don't even know if that's possible. Honorable mentions go to Pokemon that almost made the list, like Meloetta, Xerneas, Aurorus, and Hatterene. Lurantis and Pheromosa were close as well. Lunala was a surprising one to see come up multiple times, and Dragonair and Galarian Ponyta were very understandable. But according to you guys, and technically me, because I kind of agree, the prettiest Pokemon is Milotic. It was designed to be the most beautiful Pokemon, and I don't know if
it's literally called the beautiful Pokemon.
People just agree because of the lore, or they genuinely see what makes Milotic so stunning.
But no, it is still beautiful.
Being a fish and having very contrasting colors and values, but sometimes the most beautiful things are the ones that stand out while still being subtle and tasteful. It's a very pretty Pokemon, no doubt. So how will I make an extremely pretty Pokemon? By combining the 3 most beautiful things on Earth. Sunsets, women, and America. Yeah!
America!
I'm not. I'm making a feminine Pokemon that embodies the sunset, and just like Milotic's namesake, Greek statues and goddesses are symbols of beauty. So I will take inspiration from the Greek god of the sun, Helios, whose ancient statue known as the Colossus of Rhodes was also the reference for the Statue of Liberty. That's the unintentional America part that I will link into the design. Basically, imagine a goddess whose various parts allude to a sunset. Her head and crown will be the sun and its rays, her flowing cape are the clouds above the ocean, and as a Pokemon that is part of a similar species to Meloetta and Gardevoir, it will have a dress-like pattern and long legs. There are many attributes here that you guys said you enjoy in pretty Pokemon, such as these alluring eyes, an elegant pose, relatively simple body too. That's why I'm not adding any intricate patterns or too many segments. I want to make sure it's symmetrical as can be, and once I color it, I'm trying to make it as pastel as a sunset can be. But the most dramatic sunsets are very vibrant, so that'll be tough. Here is Heliolure, the sunset Pokemon, a fire fairy mythical Pokemon with the ability Drought. This regal Pokemon only appears during the most spectacular sunset. They radiate intense heat that distorts the air. For millennia, Heliolure has been seen as a symbol of beauty and warmth. In reality, Heliolure is rather temperamental and violent. They will attack those who upstage them. Oddly enough, Heliolure has fallen in love with Baratorn's beautiful voice, and is one of the few Pokemon to approach Baratorn, who has in turn fallen in love with Heliolure's appearance and company. Her shiny is simply brighter.
That's
now,
actually really nice.
An ugly person who is beautiful on the inside, contrasting with a pretty person whose personality is rather off-putting, is as old as time. But of course, that's what this challenge was all about. Hopefully it's not much of a challenge for you to like and subscribe for more. Check out my other art video.
Alright everyone, that's going to be the end of today's video, and I hope you all enjoyed this. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe for more. Link to the original will be in the description below, and I'll see all of y'all next time when we flick back on. Till then, this is Fox, signing out. Peace.